Hey guys, Darren Carr here, coach of Wise Pods, and welcome back to another episode of our round preview series. On today's episode, we will be previewing round 16, and this is where the season gets interesting. As most teams will probably be at the stage we're not done with the buys, and most people will be done with their team, so they'll have full primo teams. So we're sort of entering luxury season. So that's probably where we just wanted to start off this episode, is really talk about what we're looking for in terms of luxury season. What do we need to be looking for? What sort of trades should we be making? And yeah, different scenarios of where your team may be placed. So if you're sort of up the top, your team will definitely be finished. Your team's probably been finished, throughout the buys, and now you're looking to trade out your worst sort of primo or someone that you expect is going to be copying a bit of attention or having a few lower games to come. So, for example, that could be Luke Ryan. He's been pretty poor over the last couple of weeks, and that could possibly continue with the Alex Pearce injury. Maybe he have to defend a bit more. So he could possibly be a trade out for you guys to then continue and upgrade to a person that you think is going to be pretty consistent over either the remainder of the year or just have a hot patch for the next couple games in the short term. So what I look for typically in luxury season is you want to look at good matchups, clearly. I think that's a pretty obvious thing to say, that you always want to look at whether you're looking at the scale of hardness or you're looking at DVP or you're looking season-long DVP on the DFS website. Highly recommend both. I like to combine a bit of both opinions and even create your own. But then you're just looking for matchups, good runs, and just picking up players on those favourable runs, so they're going to maximise their scoring. It doesn't always work out that way, that they're going to, score on those weeks. They could obviously score very well on the harder matchups, but it just sort of works out in your favour that they're most likely going to have better games. So that's the one thing that you're looking for pretty much for the remainder of the season. But the thing that you don't want to get trapped into is just sort of sidewaysing all the time. You don't want to just be sidewaysing these sort of lower end primos, because then you're not really continuing upgrading. You still want to sort of push for the top 22 players for the remainder of the season. So look at your best 22. There's plenty of them out there, whether you go to Fantasy Fanatics or you go to the traders. They all have best 22s. And you also just keep upgrading to those guys. You don't want to just be sidewaysing to these lower end guys, just hoping they go well. So continue to upgrade where you can. Another thing that you need to be looking out for is considering tags. So obviously tags have been a huge topic throughout the last couple of weeks, and it's always good to keep an eye on what sort of tags you can expect in the coming weeks. So that could be a huge factor in why you may not want to pick someone up. Also go in current form. You can't just be... I don't like to just jump on someone that maybe hasn't been performing the greatest and then thinking, oh, they've got a good run, let's just jump on them and hope they come good. You really want them to be in the best form, but sort of coming into that round. Probably not scoring like massively, but at least putting up some decent scores against tougher matchups that show you that, okay, they've got a good matchup coming up. They can really take that score and an extra 10, 15 points that are going to get them that ceiling score. So I guess probably one of those, we should probably start identifying who we should probably be targeting throughout the remainder of the season. So I particularly like Josh Dunkley this week. So he has a pretty good run. He's got Melbourne this week, Adelaide, and then West Coast in the next three. Got a harder one in Sydney, but then goes Gold Coast and St Kilda, who aren't great. Like, they're obviously neutral in terms of matchups, but on their day can be pretty hard. So definitely don't mind him there, especially because I particularly like him because he's probably not the tag target for most of the weeks. Like, they've obviously got Lockie Neal, who's the main damaging one, so he's sort of that second fiddle who goes a bit under the radar and doesn't cop too much attention. The only concern with him, he does do a few defensive work roles in that midfield as well, which does limit his scoring on occasion. So I doubt he does it this week unless they sort of just back their midfield in to go head-to-head with Melbourne's. But I can see a Neil Bullen go to an Oliver instead, rather than Josh Dunkley. That should open him up. Similar with Adelaide, I can't see who he'd be matching up on, trying to go defensive. It's only real Dawson. And I don't know if Dunkley goes to Dawson. Maybe they just, again, do a bit of a tagging role with Neil Bullen. If not, it probably would be Dunkley. He has the same sort of structure. No one really concerned about at West Coast. Yeah, no, I'm not really concerned there at all. Sydney's a harder one, but I think he sort of matches up pretty well against a Heaney. He can do he can obviously take a very good overhead mark, and yeah, I think he can match really well with Heaney there. So I definitely think Josh Dunkley is my target for the short period anyway, especially if you're looking for that real upgrade this week. A few others, just looking at some matchups here, I don't mind this run from Essendon. You got Geelong this week, so maybe a possible tag. So if you don't have a Merritt, definitely could jump on him. He's got Melbourne a couple weeks to come, and then Adelaide, St Kilda, and Gold Coast there. Pretty good run. Besides that, you've got GWS. So who are we really looking at GWS? You've only really got Greeny is my only thing. You're probably not jumping into a Cornelio. Like I said, you want to go based on form. He's only just come back from injury. You're probably not looking at Kelly. His current form isn't great either, so it's hard to really jump on there. If you don't have a Green, then absolutely jump on him. He's obviously very cheap as well, so he's a great target, but I think most people already have him. But there's really not too many other good runs that we can really look at here. You've got Fremantle. I don't mind their run either. I know it's probably not the greatest one to jump on this week, but maybe you can make your plans next week to go to a Sarong or a Brayshaw. He's bumped up in form recently. There you go, Richmond, Hawthorn, Melbourne, West Coast, Essendon, and Geelong in a 6-week period. So that's pretty nice. So maybe make your plans there. Moving on from there, you've got Western Bulldogs after the Port game. They go Carlton, Geelong, Sydney, and Melbourne, and then they have a pretty good run to the remainder of the season. So maybe make your plans to either get a Bont in there or a Treloar. That's probably maybe my way of thinking, going to a Treloar in this Carlton game instead. Just because, again, he's probably second fiddle to Bontempelli. He's not going to cop too much attention. He hasn't really caught much attention all season. And I actually saw an interesting stat that he is the highest averaging disposal player throughout the season, averaging 32 disposals. So definitely flying under the radar and absolutely killing it. So I'd definitely advise picking up Treloar when you can. I know there's potential of an injury risk, but he's been killing it all season. I'd be very surprised. But in saying that, I would not be surprised that as soon as everyone picks him up, he absolutely shits the bed and tears both hamstrings and he's out for a year or something like that. It would just be very much the fantasy gods coming at us, but it is what it is. But yeah, that's probably just my sort of thought process throughout the next sort of 3 weeks. You can probably go Dunkley this week. Who was I talking about there? Sarong next week, or Brayshaw, and then maybe you can look at Treloar the next 3 weeks. That's sort of my 3 targets over the next 3 weeks. If I was at the top, sorry, if I was up there, that's my thought process. But because I'm sort of back a few ways and I'm still trying to get all my rookies off field, I am in a much different state trying to just get all the rookies off field. So yeah, that's what my sort of trades would be if you're up the top there. If you're in a situation like me, it's as simple as just trying to get rookies off field, trying to complete your team, because you are massively losing points out to the best players in the competition, because yeah, you're fielding a rookie who's probably dropping 50s or 60s, where other people's are getting premiums that are scoring 90s, 100s. So that's 40-50 points right there in one player. So trying to get those players off field as quick as possible is ideal, but not a whole lot you can do when you only have 2 trades and not a whole lot of cash and rookies coming through, unfortunately. So that's what I really wanted to talk about in terms of luxury season. Spent 9 minutes talking about that, but we'll move on to the main trade-in, trade-out targets this week. So we'll quickly go through this. I think it's pretty straightforward, but again, we'll just go through it. So we'll start the main trade-out targets. I always like to do that. Start with the negative and go into the positive. So first player on the list for the main trade-out targets is Clayton Oliver. I think he needs to go. He's number 2 on my list for main trade-out targets. Break even of 131, had a 26 last week, which is absolutely shocking. Possibly has another tag coming this week with a berry. What a player he used to be, and what's going on with him is something phenomenal. I've never seen something like this before. Yeah, and I need something to show. I need him to show something for the remainder of the year because I would really like to start him next year, but I don't know. I just haven't seen much from him yet. So yeah, he's definitely one to trade out. Jump off ship. He's losing a lot of coin, so he's nearly 700k. So you can easily jump up to that next sort of primo player if you can. If you're a situation like mine and you've still got a couple rookies on the field and you're sort of tossing up between, trading out an Oliver instead, it's a really tough one because obviously it sounds like a tough one because Oliver can put up a decent score, but with what he's actually doing, he's actually scoring worse than a rookie, particularly this week. He doesn't probably won't always, but a rookie definitely can score a 67 for us. Like we got a Dowling there. Who else we got? You probably have a Freya that's still sitting there. Bruce Reveal. I'm trying to think of everyone else that we may have on the field. But yeah, we have Shawn Makers, Evans, Thilstrup. Yeah, we've got plenty of rookies on the field that can probably score those sort of scores. So I think it's probably better to just jump off ship with Oliver and save that coin that he's going to drop, and just field that extra rookie because and maybe loop between a few rookies as well. So that's probably my opinion there. But yeah, he needs to go. Number 2, you have Christian Salem. I think he's actually going to play this week, which is makes it probably a bit harder to kind of determine what you want to do with him. 712k, break even of 90, so it's not the worst thing. He could definitely hit that. Can't see a tag coming his way or anything like that. His role was very consistent, just didn't look like he was getting around it, just obviously with that knock knee. It's never something you want to hear from a coach that he's had a bit of a knock and, especially a knee, it's not something you want to be playing around with. So I can understand people jumping straight off no matter what. But at the end of the day, if you have more pressing issues, like if you have rookies on field, I think I'd just be prioritising getting those off before trading a Christian Salem, because I'd be very surprised if he does this again and gets subbed out. I think should be good to go. Maybe some limited time this week again, but yeah, I think he should be fine and probably puts a better score than a rookie. Jeremy Sharp, needs to go. I'd say these are the final few that are still trading him out. Yeah, I thought most people traded him out already, so he just needs to go. He's breaking to 130 now and plummeting, so yeah. And even for a flag this week, I think he probably does a bit of a job on Errol Goulden, trying to keep him sort of limited to how many touches he has, so he's sort of probably do a bit of a tagging role, I would say, so probably another reason just a jump ship. I don't see him getting a big score out of this one at all. Freya, most people probably just trading him out, like myself, trying to get off these rookies, he's the most expensive rookie I think most people have, 410k. You can sort of, if you have a little bit money in the bank, you can sort of trade him and another rookie, getting up to a rosy green type, so I think he's one to jump off of if you can. Probably 1 week early because it could make another 20 or 30k if he puts up a 60 or so, but I think I'm happy to jump up early and continue to upgrade my side. Luke Ryan is number 5 with 2.7k coaches jumping off him, and I can understand why. These are probably top line coaches that are sort of jumping off here, which is probably what I advise. While I'm probably more in the camp that he's gonna return to a bit of form, especially this week. I think I spoke about it a little bit in my last video, is that with the likes that Jordan Clark is going to be tagged through James Jordan, maybe they are forced to go back a little bit more to a Luke Ryan and give him a few more disposals. So I think he could put up a decent score. I don't think he will have a huge ceiling score, but I think he can probably break the 3-figure mark and really stem that break even a little bit. But for those top coaches, who I say probably are up there, I think it's probably just better to jump off. He's the one that's probably most at risk in most people's teams. I struggle to think a few other struggling primos. You maybe could move off a Bont who is struggling this week with a back injury. Maybe you go off early there, but I would wait to see what happens with teams. He does play the second game of the week, so you should know pretty early on if he is out or not. There's also a concern that he could go forward and maybe not kick as much as you sort of expect, but you'd expect him to still have a pretty good game no matter where he plays. So I don't mind people jumping off Luke Ryan, but I am in the scenario that I think he backs it up. He's got a really good run coming up, as I've shown. 3 good games he goes. Where is it? Richmond, Hawthorn, and Melbourne. 3 very light green matchups, so he could put up some very big ceiling scores there if the game goes his way. But obviously there is a concern with the role changing a little bit. So I don't know. I'm backing him in because I still think he can be top 6. But yeah, I can see other people jumping off, which is perfectly fine. Tom Powell is my number 3 most traded out in my list. I think he needs to go again. He's just lingering in everyone's side. He's still 8.1k, 8.1% owned, and still some on my side, and he's still staying, I think. Unless a few things change up in teams, I can't see myself moving off of him. Just doesn't have not enough coin on his head to jump off to anyone significant. Like I do have enough money to go him straight to a Rosie, but then that doesn't leave me enough cash to sort of change a few things else up. So unless there's another force trade and I need to sort of sideways a Primo, there's probably no way that I trade a Powell, unfortunately. But for everyone else, I definitely recommend jumping off of him. He's lost the role. He only had like 10% CBAs on the weekend, and there's even a possibility that he gets dropped. So if he does get dropped, then it's a no-brainer. I'll trade him out. He is slowly bleeding coin. And only scoring like 60s, so probably not much better than a rookie. So I don't mind trading him out there and fielding an extra rookie if you have to. A few rookies here in McKay McCullough getting traded out, red dots, or a sub-risk anyway. People jumping off Bruce Reveal. Again, probably just getting that final upgrade. I don't mind that at all. And Toby Pink. Interestingly, marked as a test, so his break-even's up there anyway, so he's not going to make too much more coin from now on. So yeah, you can probably move him on if that little bit of coin on his head gets you to put the person you want to, or you're just doing like a sideways rookie play. Probably don't advise it this time of year. Like I don't really see the benefit of going a Pinky to an Evans and gaining that 40k unless that you've able to do your other trade on the other side. Like maybe you go on a Tom Powell to a Rosie, and that's maybe the only scenario you can do it. Most scenarios, I would say, just cash out these other more expensive rookies and continue to either bank some coin for next week and keep moving along. People moving off Closey, great. Clark, great. Lots of rookies here, so really shows what most people are targeting this week is just jumping off those rookies, getting that final upgrade on the team. So, really advise jumping off all those. What did Julian score last week? A 52, break even to 43. Oh, it's a tough one because he's been really good. Like we've seen him go really well, and I actually think Collingwood are a really good matchup for defenders. So I'd actually be in the thought process of holding Euland if you can. I think he could be definitely a serviceable fielding option this week for you. So I'd probably be holding there just with how good he's been. Angwin, people jumping off him. He's been a bit of a failed trade, unfortunately, for those people. Jackson, people still have Jackson. I don't know where he's been. I thought most people jumped off him in early season, but apparently not. He needs to go. Darcy Wilson, everyone still jumping off him. People jumping off early on Sexton. I don't mind this play. Very concerned about his role. I'm still watching it for one more week. I like the matchup as well, so really just wanted to watch again. A little bit concerned. I think we spoke about it a little bit on my last videos that he played a little bit more on the wing and a bit more half forward in this game, but still had 5 kick-ins, which is the confusing part. If there was no kick-ins, then I'd absolutely be jumping ship on him. But I'd say he's still holding his role. I'd be very surprised if he gets dropped when teams come out. So I think he's worth holding, and maybe you can loop him and another decent forward option. Say you've got Tom Powell and a Sexton, and you don't want to move on off either, then maybe you can loop between them, the two. So I don't mind people jumping off him early. It's a bit of a good play. Travis Boak, I think he should be back this week. I can't see why he wouldn't be. I don't think he was named in the injury list, at least from what I remember. No, he's not there. Or am I missing him? No, he's not there, so I think he should be fine. So if you're wanting to hold him there, you could definitely do that. Besides that, I think we've getting into a few of the more unique players. So I think that'll sort of do it for the main trade out targets there. Moving on to the main trade in targets, if I can click that right. So we've got Connor Rosie at number 1. He is being traded in by 15.2k coaches. So a very popular trade in target, and for a very good reason. He is 705k, break even of 87, so expected to go up. Got St Kilda this week, so it could put up a pretty decent score. He was on for a massive one last time they played, before he had that hamstring injury. So I expect him to have a pretty good game. Just looked like he was back in form last week. Like, looking at the stat line, had 28 disposals, 8 marks, and 7 tackles, put up the 115. So definitely could have been a lot more. Doesn't seem like he's being managed in terms of time anymore, so up to 85%. So I think he's just one. You don't overthink it. He can be a top 8 mid for the remainder of the season. Looking at his run, always like to compare runs as well. Probably not the best in terms of what is coming. Looking at Port Adelaide here, St Kilda, Western Bulldogs, Gold Coast, Richmond, Adelaide. So it is actually alright. It's not the greatest, but it's still pretty good. So as someone I'm just not overthinking, I think it's just an easy grab hold, try not to be too unique, just do it. He can definitely put up some decent ceiling scores for the remainder of the year. So yeah, I'm not overthinking it. I think I'm just grabbing him. As much as I want to be a bit unique and go a bit different, I just try not to overthink that one and just going to grab it. In terms of tags, probably not going to expect too much of a tag this week. A Windhager, I think that sort of suits a Butters more likely, just with the frame. But if Rosie gets off the chain, then maybe they do switch it around here and there. Western Bulldogs don't typically tag. They're sort of just back in the midfield, so wouldn't expect too much of a tag there. Gold Coast, very similar. Maybe a David Swallow can go stand next to him, but I think he's too old and slow for him. Richmond don't tag. Chin Cotter, maybe, from Carlton. He's got the speed to do it and the height, maybe. So that could be one to be a bit worried about. But maybe he goes to Houston instead. Goes to a bit of a halfback. We have seen that from Carlton in the past, rather going for, he went to Tom Stewart last week instead of like a Holmes. So maybe that's just the way they like to go about it. So I'm not overthinking Rosie too much. I think he's just a sort of a smash play. He's cheap. He's just a give me pretty much, I think. So I'm jumping aboard. Next up is Logan Evans, being traded in by 11.4k coaches. Still think it's a great option. He's probably my number 2 this week. I think there's probably another rookie better off. Just given I don't love what he's putting up his numbers in terms of his rookie numbers or his ASNFL numbers. I think he only is averaging sort of 50 in the back half there. So I think that game last week sort of very much suited him. They got sort of smacked around a fair bit, so they sort of chipped the ball around a little bit for him. So, but in saying that, he still looked pretty good. Made a few mistakes, but he should hold his spot, and I can't see a reason why he'd be losing his spot. When I look at this injury list, who's actually coming back in? Is Mackenzie coming back in a couple of weeks' time? Possibly. You expect Billy Rioli to come back into the side, but I don't think that replaces a defender as such. It's maybe Burgoyne is maybe the main concern, who's still a week or two away. So maybe that's the only thing to be worried about, I'd say. So maybe you get another couple of weeks out of him. So I don't mind that. He's very cheap. Break even -9. St Kilda this weekend is a good matchup, so could definitely put up a decent score there. Yeah, all pointing in the right direction, especially if you're looking for a defender rookie as well. Ari Schroedermaker is another rookie defender, fresh off the bye. Got Port Adelaide this week, so probably it's probably tossing up between him and Logan Evans. Both very similar, same break even. I think they're only 1k difference, just depending on the matchup. Do I think he has better job security than the likes of Logan Evans? Probably not. It's very similar. I think a Dougal Howard probably replaces him pretty quickly next week. So that could be a bit of a concern. So maybe that's why I've put him a little bit further down on the list. I think he's number 3 for me as a downgrade option. Just with all these flags with what his role could be. But he is a highly talented player, and maybe that's all that he needs to just stay in the side. Maybe they just don't want to kick him out just because there's a better player on the cusp. They could just keep him in there because he did a few nice things, taking the ball on with his nice kicking. So maybe he could stay in there. So I don't mind going for him if you don't have him already. Jai Caldwell is number 4. He is my number 2 main trade target this week. Seems to be a lock for the sort of top 5 in the forward line. So starting to find the numbers in there. Good matchup this week and has a really good run, as we've spoken about in the last couple of weeks. So he's only going to make more coin. Looked like he got more CBAs on the weekend as well. So hopefully this continues, even with the worry that the likes of Parrish is due back in a couple of weeks' time. Let's have a look here. Parrish due back in 3 weeks. So maybe that changes a few things up in 3 weeks. But even the likes of Setterfield, he's been in and out of the side for some reason, so I don't really know what's going on there. And maybe it's not enough to be worried too much. I think it's just something you jump on, and we're in luxury season anyway, so you can probably have a look at it for 1 week, and if it does turn to shit, then you just jump off ship pretty quickly. So you can probably take those riskier plays, I think. Number 5 on the most traded in list is Thelstrup. I won't say his first name because I'll probably get it wrong. 292k. He's actually my number 1 trade target this week. I think his scoring potential is the highest of the lot of these guys, and I think his job security is the one that's up there as well. Just given that I think he's taken that Petrarca role a fair bit. Obviously, he was out indefinitely, and I don't see anyone in this injury report taking him out of that side. Maybe a Melksham if he returns, but he's been on the cusp a fair bit. Marty Hall, again, very cusp, but I wouldn't expect him to be coming in. So I just don't see anyone in this injury list that's actually going to take his role. So I think his job security is there. He has shown he's got a pretty high ceiling in terms of his numbers. He scores well over 100 in the VFL, so I think he can definitely be a bit of an accumulator there. So here's my rookie pick, and this is probably one of the last weeks to pick him up, given he will be over 300k next week, so I don't mind him there. Coben McCurge, people are jumping straight back on, 2.6k coaches. I don't mind it. I've obviously been eyeing off him for a fair while. I do expect him to make a return this week. He scored well over probably like 108 in 3 quarters worth of footy on the weekend in the VFL. So obviously has a huge ceiling that we all know of. So he could be really good. I definitely don't see him staying at this price range for long at 600k. So he should easily push up to 800k quite quickly. Hopefully, averaging into that 90 to 100 range. Tough matchups to come. So he's got where is it? Where are we? We've got Western Bulldogs this week, I think. Yeah. So probably not the greatest matchup. Not too bad. Then he's got Suns and West Coast. Suns and Sydney. Oh my god. So it's not the greatest matchups in terms of defenders, but I think it would do just nicely, especially at this price. So I think he'll be fine. So I'm happy to jump on him as that lower price player. Similarly with Tom Green, I think I'm Tom Green over a Rosie if you don't have either of them. I think I'd just go with Tom Green. Lower break even. Probably less likely a tag in the near future, just given the teams that he plays. I don't think he gets a tag that often. So yeah, I think he's probably just a bit more back into form. He's showing a higher ceiling, so I'm probably just Tom Green over that. So if you don't have him, jump on him. I think 46% already own him, so you're pretty much just matching everybody else. Jai Simpkin is another underpriced player that you could jump on as a bit of a punt for your F6 spot. I don't mind it. He scored an 81 on the weekend. Obviously came off that 132 a couple weeks prior. Bit of a concern with his role, obviously jumping back and forth between having sort of 40% CBAs and sort of 60 to 70% CBAs. I think that all just depends on if they're tagging someone in the mid and Phillips is taking those CBAs. So I'm not too concerned with that. I think he should be okay for the end of the season. Just got to be a little bit concerned with that. I think it was a hamstring that he was out for that 1 week. So yeah, something to keep an eye on. Again, the run for inside mids. Let's have a quick look here for North. Yeah, it's not a great run for now. They actually do pick up later on, but yeah, he could be one that he could jump on now, and hopefully you get reward later on in the season for these 4 weeks period. So I don't mind him there, especially you're happy to take a punt in at F6 spot. There's so many different players you could run in there, so I don't mind him there. If you don't have Billy Dowling, people are jumping on still. Don't mind that. He should be a pretty decent scorer. I can't see him being dropped either. People are trading Elliot there. I don't know why. I think he's pretty much been confirmed that he's not playing this week with the passing of his father. So, yeah, all respects go to him. Yeah, wouldn't want to be in his shoes. So I do wish him all the best. So, but in terms of fantasy, you're not jumping on him. I probably wouldn't even be doing it if he was an option. I just don't trust the body or the security or West Coast even. So yeah, people jumping on Eric Golden. I can see why. If you have the extra coin, do it. But I'm personally not paying that much money for him. Yeah, no matter how good he's going to be. And I do expect him to get a bit more attention with how good form he's been in the last couple of weeks, especially with I think a Sharp can run with him and do a bit of a negating role. So one to watch there. Bontempelli, people are trading him in. Probably before the news that he has a bit of a back injury at the moment. Left training early, so one to keep an eye on for teams, I'd say. Yeah, it's hard to make much more comment on that. If he's gonna be out, then you trade him. I think. I think most teams are in that luxury position to trade him out. Especially with the back, it's a bit complicated. I probably wouldn't trust it just to be a 1 weeker. I think you just jump off. And I think it's probably, he hasn't been the best all season. He hasn't looked great, so I think it's just one to jump off of if you can, with a few tougher matchups to come, like his Port Adelaide, Carlton. So, well, it's not hard matchups. Like Port Adelaide, yes, but then he actually has a pretty decent run, as I said, for Treloar. So, yeah, I don't mind that there. But, yeah, if he does play, I think it's just a hold. I think, even if he could be a little bit managed or he does go forward a little bit more, I think you take the hit just thinking that, assuming he's going to be fine for, the weeks to come. Trent Rivers is an interesting option. We spoke about him a little bit in the review video. I do like him as an option. Obviously, he is getting a lot more midfield time. He had 80% CBAs on the weekend, was the number 1 CBA player for Melbourne. So I can't see him getting any attention because obviously they have Oliver and Viney in there, so I do like that as well. It's just the run is not the greatest, which I've said before. Like he's got Brisbane and West Coast, so next two are great, obviously. But then he's gone a 5-week stretch where he goes Essendon, Fremantle, GWS, Western Bulldogs, and Port, who are all tougher matchups. So that's sort of what scares me off a little bit. Obviously, if he had a great run to come, then it would be an absolutely I'm jumping on and I'm just going to enjoy, take the risk on it. But because it's sort of leaning away from it, I'm probably just not going to do it. Yeah, but I do think he's a good option in terms of he's underpriced. He's probably going to jump up to 800k. Still could be a smash play and still probably put up, decently high numbers like 90s to 100s. Maybe you won't see huge ceiling scores in the matchups, but I think he can be okay and provide that D6 spot for you and push pretty good numbers. So he's probably my preferred sort of underpriced player as such. A few more here. Kyle Brown. I'm not confident he holds this spot, so I probably wouldn't be trading him in. I actually probably prefer the other debutant in Wakefield. I think I've got his numbers here in terms of what he's putting up in the VFL, so we can have a quick look at there. So in 2024, he's gone 79, 75, 87, 97, 1014, 77, 98, 117, 105, 71, and 115. So he's playing that in a bunch of different roles where he goes half forward flank, or he goes back pocket, full forward, centre half forward, a lot of forward pockets. So he can definitely put up some very decent numbers. I think he's averaging closer to 85, 90. So he definitely has some decent numbers, and I'm probably just going to jump on him there, hoping that his job security is fine. Yeah, I think he'd be alright. He's probably my preferred one to jump on, and he's a bit lower on the list given that he's obviously 200k. You can wait a week. There's no rush, and I think you have better rookies to jump on. But if you're in the boat like me, where you already have a Sharon Makey, you already have an Evans and a Thilstrup, then I'm probably just I'm looking at these sort of 200k guys that I can jump onto. Going back here, Dane Zorko is another great option. I think he's a good captain option this week. We'll get into my captains a little bit later, but yeah, I don't mind him as an option there. Zach Merritt, again, I still think he's a good option to jump on. He's got Geelong this week, so definitely could be a decent match. Or definitely is a good matchup. Just concerned with the tag, possibly from an Atkins or an O'Connor. I don't think a Blitzarves goes with him much, but yeah. I think he's still there. Zach Merritt's just very consistent. People jumping on Taranto. I've spoken about this a little bit, just given his run, but I still think he's underpriced for what he can do. Yeah, he's starting to look like he's back in form after that long break he's had. Just give me 2 seconds, guys. Alrighty. We'll probably do a few more here. Josh Dunkley, I'm really favourable in him. We've already spoken about him a little bit in my luxury season update. I think just given he's still fairly unique, and for his run that he's got coming up in the next 3 or even next 6 sort of, I think is a good buy-in, even though he's had a few lower games in the past, couple games. He put up a nice 118 against the hardest matchup, so I expect him to go really well. And doesn't comp tag, so I really like him. Sammy Walsh, again, another great option to jump on. Got Richmond Tigers this week, so it could be a good captain option there. Lockie Whitfield, people jumping back on, which I don't mind. Let's just have a quick look at his run. I haven't really looked at it too much because I already have him, but let's go. It's not great. He's got Hawthorn and Collingwood after the Essendon game. Then he's got a 3-game stretch of pretty tough ones. Is there any tags to come? Maybe a Guelphy goes with him this week. Wait, am I looking at the wrong one? I am looking at the wrong one, aren't I? Yeah, I am. Sorry. He's got Adelaide and Carlton the next 2, which are really hard matchups. Does a Keys run with him, possibly? Then a Chincotta could definitely run with him instead that game. So maybe it's one I'm probably just punting on that you go somewhere else. He has been pretty good the last couple, but he can be very easily shut down. Maybe target him in this 4-game stretch where he goes Richmond, Gold Coast, Melbourne, and Hawthorn, who are 3 out of 4 very easy matchups. Maybe if you've got the luxury, try and avoid him these next 2 weeks. People jumping onto Koning, I don't mind it. What price is that? 769k. Being a bit different, I guess maybe more for matchup. I can't see why you'd be doing it for, overall rank. You'd be a very brave person to try and go away from the Gawn Marshall or Gawn Cherry matchup. I think those have been very good. But I think that'll sort of do it for the main trade-in targets. I like Treloar, I like Myers, I like Dacos. Don't like Rankin as much. Don't like Miller. Don't mind people jumping on a Laird there as at half forward. As that backman. I think he can be pretty good there, a bit at a cheaper price as well. So one I'm keeping an eye on. Just tough matchup, so I'm not super keen. Definitely keeping an eye on him next week if I want to jump on, because he's got St Kilda coming up in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, that's sort of do it for the main trade-in targets. Let's quickly summarise what we've spoken about. Let's just quickly go to my team. Alright, so quickly, main trade-up targets pop up here. We got cashed-up rookies, so really just emphasising you want to get these final rookies off your side. Trade out 2 rookies if you can and get up to a premium. It's not that hard this week, given that we have likes of Rosie or Tom Green. Both are very underpriced and both can be achievable from 2 sort of lower rookies. Number 2, Clayton Oliver needs to go. We've spoken about him plenty. That he has a very high break even, and he's just really shocking in not putting up the scores that you want. And I think a rookie can outscore him at any stage. Got the tag coming, so I think he's a priority trade out. Tom Power is another one that needs to go, just with him slowly bleeding some cash, not really putting up decent scores at all. Job security risk at the moment with the likes of McKercher probably pushing him out, I possibly think, so one to think about there. Christian Salem's a bit down the list if it's really luxury. Like I said, I think rookies are definitely a priority instead of him, but if he's sort of the worst player you have and you're concerned with his knee injury, then you just jump off. So I don't mind that one there. Then I've got luxury at number 5. So that's talking about your Luke Ryans, that you're in a really good position that you can jump off these top line players and sort of play this game, like target the matchups coming in the next couple of weeks and just trying to maximize points on field. Don't really worry about too much about the cash. And hopefully, he's got plenty of money on his head, so you can probably sort of downgrade him to a lesser price player and sort of get an upgrade on the other side as well. So I definitely don't mind jumping off him. Another luxury upgrade trade you could probably do. You could probably jump off a Bont, like I said, just with the injury concern with his back. Maybe you just go, fuck it, I'm just going to jump off him. He hasn't been that good anyway. And just, cut your losses and, sideways him to another player. So I don't mind that one as well. Maybe you could jump off a Nick Martin with his role change a little bit. He's been a bit unders from what we sort of expected the last couple of weeks. Well, he put up 120 only like 2 weeks ago, so it's not absolutely something you need to jump off now. But if you saw something that the rest of us didn't and you want to make that early jump, then I don't mind that. If you have the likes of an English, maybe you can jump off him to, a different ruckman. Maybe go to a Marshall this week. I think Marshall's going to go pretty massive. He's got Port Adelaide, so he's playing against Sweet or Vizentini. So I don't mind jumping off to him there. Who else can we possibly trade? A Sexton. If you have a Sexton there with his role change, you could probably jump off to someone else. So go to a Caldwell or try and shore up that forward line a little bit. Just, luxury season. You can make these sort of trades, just identifying your worst sort of player on your field and trying to get to the next best player where you can. So, that's probably the main trade out targets. We'll move on to the main trade in targets here. So I've got Connor Rosie at number 1. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We've spoken about him a fair bit. Everyone's doing it. Low price, low break even, good matchup. Pretty good run to come. He just pretty much signs yourself up, and I think it's just a freebie for all us that are trying to finish up our teams. Number 2, I've got Jai Caldwell. While there is concern that with Parrish and stuff coming, we've been speaking about that plenty of times throughout the season, so I'm not too concerned about that. He's still quite lowly owned at only 11%, so he's still fairly unique. Good matchup, good run to come. Only going to get more expensive with a break-even of 16-7 as well. Not that money's a huge issue at the moment. I think it's just one you can jump on now and enjoy for the next couple of weeks until some of these other guys return, and then you can start to tackle that problem as they come. Number 3, I had Sam Walsh. I really like Sam Walsh this week. If you didn't grab him last week, he's got the Tigers this week. I don't see him being tagged at all. I think that he's probably expected to have a pretty high ceiling game. Surprisingly, hasn't played the Tigers since 2022. Did I say that right? Yeah. Season 20. Yeah. 2022. So, hasn't played them the last 2 years just because he's been injured. Started last season or started this season, and they only typically play them once a season. So, bit of a one to watch there. So I'm expecting he goes pretty well against them here. In saying that, though, Richmond have been a bit tougher since Taranto has returned, and that midfield start to shore up a little bit. So, maybe not the best matchup that we're sort of expecting. Number 4, I had Zach Merritt. Again, super consistent. Possibly has a tag coming, but I think he will be fine. Got a good run. Lowly priced at just over 900k, so not anything significant. I think you just jump on board and enjoy. Oh my god, stumbling on words. And finally, had Josh Dunkley for all the reasons I've spoken about previously. Lowly owned, good run coming up in the next 3. Lowly priced as well, under 900k. This is the cheapest he has been pretty much all season, I think. So I don't mind jumping on him there. Doesn't get tagged too often, so I just think he's pretty much a smash play there. But I'll do it for the main trading targets. If you're looking for a few cheaper options, you've got the likes of Simpkins, Rivers, and McKercher are my main 3 that you want to be targeting there. Obviously, McKercher's the cheapest one of the lot there, under 600k. You got Rivers that are just under 700k, and then you got Simpkin, who's what was he, 650 or 600, just over 600k. So depending where you want them to play, obviously you've got 2 defenders there, or you've got a mid forward. So if you're targeting a forward, then just go Simpkin. You can probably he's probably closer to being top 6 than the rest of the two. So maybe he's the one I lean into a little bit more. Lower break even than the rest. Oh, maybe McKercher has a lower break even, but there's probably more concern with McKercher with his foot than there is Simpkin with his hamstring. So I'd probably lean that way. So I'd probably go Simpkin, Rivers, McKercher, as much as that hurts me. I do like McKercher. Downgrade options this week. So I've got what's his name? Tholstrup this week as number 1. Like I said, I think he has really good numbers in the 2s, so I think he has a high scoring potential, and I think his job security is probably the safest of the lot. I could be wrong, and he could be dropped this week, but I do think he was the one that could definitely be staying in that side, and he did a few nice things on the weekend, so I'd expect him to continue and provide some decent coin for us, and even be a fieldable option for those of us that need a rookie on field. Number 2, I had Logan Evans. Like I said, I just don't see too much worry in terms of job security. Maybe a Chase Jones pushes him out when he returns, but I like the matchup, so I think you can make over probably 100k in the next 2 weeks with that lower break even. I'm just not super happy with his numbers in the VFL. So I don't know how he'll go, but yeah, even if he puts up a few 50s and stuff like that, he should still make some decent coin. 56 gets him about 50k. I'm happy with that, so happy to jump on him at number 2. I've gone him above Sean Makers just because Dougal Howard's due back next week, and again, I just want these guys to be green dots on the bench. While it's not super important this time of year, I still want that cash generation to really boost my side for the remainder of the season. So, I'm not super confident that he stays in this side for the remainder of the season or even till next week. So that's why I've put him a bit further down the list. It took him a while to get in the side, but I can see him staying in if he can. So I've already got him. I got him a couple weeks ago. Number 4, I've gone for a bit of a forgotten name in Joe Richards. I don't think he's anywhere in the trading list. Oh, here he is. Only 200 players are trading him in, but he does have the lowest break even of the lot. He is named as a test, I believe, so he should be good to go. If we have a look here, yeah, foot test. Could be available for selection. Yeah, so if he returns, I don't mind him as an option as well. Obviously a massive negative break even. We've seen some very good numbers from him: 81, 62, and 94 in the 3 games that he's played. It's just there's no guarantee that he instantly returns to the senior side, with a few others returning as well. You've got the likes of where is he? The Goey, and there wasn't one and the Pendlebury is returning as well. So do they make 3 changes straight out of the bye? Maybe not. I don't know there. So definitely one to be worth considering. They're obviously Myercheck that is available, and Markov. So they could all 5 of them could return quite easily. So I don't know if he gets selected there, but if he does, he definitely will make a lot of coin there. And I've thrown number 5 in there, the only debutant that we've got announced so far in Wakefield. And I showed you his numbers before. I do think he's going to be a pretty good rookie if he can hold his spot. So I'm picking him up so far this week. Alrighty, well that does it sort of the main trading targets and stuff like that. To finish off the video, we've got to talk about captains, we've got to talk about tag targets, and we've got to talk about some questions. So quickly, we'll go through the fixture a little bit and we'll identify some tag targets, and then we'll go through some captain options real quick. So just going through the list here. So Friday night we've got Brisbane and Melbourne. So the only tag targets I see in here is Berry going to Oliver. I'd be very surprised if he goes to anyone else. Berry may not even go to Oliver. They may just be like, fuck it, then Melbourne's been shit. Let's just back in our midfield to beat them one-on-one and just go for it. So, that's probably not even one to even be worried about too much, I would say. Most people will be trading out Oliver anyway, so I don't think it's too much of a concern. On the flip side, you got Melbourne's Neil Bullen. He's done some tagging targets recently. Probably could go to a Neil, I would say. I think he's probably the most damaging and the one you want to try and nullify the most. So that's maybe someone, if you have Neil, maybe be a bit prepared. Don't VZ him as much. In saying that, he could also go to a Zorko or something in the back line. Neil Borden doesn't typically start in the CBAs as such, but he does roll in there when he does tag. So just keep an eye on that. Game number 2, got North and Western Bulldogs. So you've got Liam Shields and Phillips there who will tag someone. I am in the opinion that they're going to tag a Treloar. I think he's much more likely to get tagged than a Bontempelli, just given the height that these two have. They're both very shorter players, and that sort of matches up a bit better to a Treloar size rather than trying to nullify a Bontempelli who's 6'5" or something like that, and yeah, he's just going to absolutely work you over the ball quite easily. So I don't see how they're going to nullify him much that at all. So if you're trading in Treloar, maybe second guess, I guess. He still should be good for the remainder of the season, but definitely could start to cop some attention, particularly in this game when they don't have the particular right matchup for Bontempelli. So just a bit of a smoky there, I guess. I'm just probably thinking a bit different than others. Don't really see Bulldogs tagging at all. I don't think they have much tagging options at all from my memory. Moving on to the next game, you got Sydney Swans and Fremantle. So Fremantle don't really tag at all. I have flagged that I do think Sharp will do a tagging role on Goulden, which is reflected in my captains. While Goulden isn't in my top 5 captains, which sounds ridiculous because he's gone 150 in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, something like that. So yeah, probably a bit of a shock there, but we'll wait and see. But we pretty much know that Sydney will use Jordan as a tag on Clark. They used it last time and it worked well, so I think that will be pretty consistent, and that's one you got to be careful of. I don't think you're moving off Clark just because of that. I think they've got a pretty good run coming up, so he's the main distributor off the halfback. I think he should be good anyway. Next game, Suns and Collingwood. I don't really expect too many tags in this game. You've got David Swallow who does some tagging roles here and there. Besides that, you have Touk Miller that does sort of just defensive roles, but no hard tags as such. And Collingwood don't really either. I can't really remember the last time they tagged it. Also, maybe a Crisp but he's been too good in that midfield. I would be very surprised if they change a few things, but it's probably one of the things that we need to speak about a little bit is with the inclusions of De Goey and Pendlebury. What happens to Crisp? Does he get pushed out of the midfield a little bit more? He's been killing it in there, so I don't know. It's just one to keep an eye on. I wouldn't be trading, but I'd just keep an eye on that one. So I don't think there's going to be any tag targets in this one, so I don't. Yeah, we'll get into captains a bit later, but yeah, I don't mind what's his name, Dacos there as a captain. Keys has typically done a few tagging targets, but not recently, so I doubt there'll be anything to really come from this. Maybe he goes to a Whitfield, but very unlikely, I would have thought. On the flip side, you got Bedford, who could go to a Dawson or a Laird. I don't think he'd go very well against a Dawson, so maybe it does go to Laird, just off that halfback a little bit. Sort of matches them up a little bit more because Bedford typically is a forward and will match up in him a little bit more. So if you're considering Laird, just keep that in mind. Next game, you've got Splitsarves, O'Connor, and Atkins. That could all go to Merritt or Martin, maybe even both of them. So maybe, something to consider there. I probably wouldn't be too scared off in terms of captains. Like we saw Walsh go 113 with an Atkins hanging off him last week, so I'm not too worried about that at all. On the flip side, you maybe got a Guelphy who could go to I don't know, who would you go to in Geelong? Could you go to a Holmes? Probably not. Guelphy probably is more of a forward tagger than anything, and I don't think you're tagging anyone in the forward line. Sorry, I'm putting my shoes on at the same time. Moving on to Sunday, you've got St Kilda and Port Adelaide. I don't think too many tag targets in this game, I wouldn't have thought. One obvious one is Windhager on Butters, I would expect. I think it goes to Butters. I think it's just sort of the better frame rather than a Rosie. So, but I still think both will be pretty good. I don't think Windhager has the speed to go with either of the two, I want to say. I know Windhager's a pretty good player, but the speed that Butters and Rosie have is pretty phenomenal. And Port Adelaide have Drew, who could go to a steal if you still have him, but I don't think too many do. So one to watch there. The only tag target in this game with Richmond and Carlton is maybe Chincotta. I would say maybe we could go to a Taranto, but I'd probably be more expecting him to go to a halfbacker like a Daniel Rioli, whatever his name is, or a Vostone maybe. They don't typically use him as a sort of an inside mid sort of tagger. And finally, you've only got Jimby that could go to a day, although probably wouldn't work that well. So not really too concerned about anyone in this game either. So there's your tag watches for the game. We'll quickly go through the list again and go some captain options. So we've got Dunkley, Neil, and Zorko, all pretty decent options. Again, I'm probably not touching Neil with the tag, possibly. I do really like Dunkley as an option. He scored a 123 against Melbourne last year, I think it was, or it was early this year, one or two. Yeah, so I don't mind him there. Zorko, very similar again. 117 last time these guys versed. So I think it's pretty good. It's actually a really good matchup for defenders. So I really like a Zorko as a VC option here. On the flip side, you've got obviously Gawn. He has gone massive the last couple times against McInerney. Scored a 149 and a 162. In saying that, McInerney has been a really tough matchup in the last 5 to 6 weeks. You've seen the likes, if I go into here and you go into the ruck matchup against Brisbane, -11 on the ruck scale there. And you're looking at some of these names. So Sweet scored a 77, not too bad, right? Marshall scored a 105, English scored a 77, and a Meek scored an 80. So all are pretty good ruckmen on their day, well, maybe besides Sweet, I'd say, and none of them put up a ceiling score. So maybe that's probably reflects why I'm probably not looking at him as such, even though he does love McInerney as an option. Yeah, I think McInerney's just been a pretty tough matchup. So why I'm avoiding him a little bit. Where was that? Yeah, and he hasn't made my top 5, unfortunately. And then you're not really looking at anyone else in that side at all. Moving on to the next game, you've probably only got a Bont that you could consider. He went a 158 last year against them, and we know what happens when what he does when he is sick after a game. So you probably could lock that in straight away if he does play, or not. Just maybe don't risk it, but yeah, definitely could be a funny one if he does go ballistic again after another injury worry or an illness thing. Besides that, you've got a Treloar who could be big again, but again, the tag worries me out of it. He's not in my top 5. Not looking at an English. Cherry's pretty tough matchup, and I probably wouldn't be looking at a Cherry as a what's it called, a captain option either. Not really looking at a Sheasel. Just that role concerns me and could be very quiet on his day, even though he's been very consistent. Moving on to the next one, you've got obviously Errol Goulden. He's been absolutely killing it last fortnightly. Scored a 153 and an 89 against the Dockers last year. So obviously one of the scale each. I do expect him to get a bit of attention, as I've said. Heaney, haven't really considered him too much in this game, especially with that concern with the knock he's had on his shoulder. So yeah, he's put up a few lower ones and hasn't really shown much of a ceiling recently. So you're really trying to search for that ceiling score. And he just hasn't shown a huge ceiling at this point in time. Besides that, you probably could go Grundy as well against the two ruckmen of Jackson and Sean Darcy. Have been a pretty fruitful matchup if you look here. Going into ruck line there, they're typically 5 extra points. So probably one wouldn't be doing if I did have Grundy. But he's been in great form, so don't mind that. Nick Dacos, I really like in this matchup against the Suns. Looking at what Andy Brayshaw did last week. Went 136 or something like that. They just didn't care. They just didn't roam free as such. Didn't put any work into him, so I'd expect very similar treatment to Dacos, and I don't see any worries with him. So he makes my top 5. He also went 150 against these guys last year, so does love playing with them a little bit. So I don't mind him as a good option there. Could consider Dawson. He went 123 against the GWS last season, but given it's a tougher matchup this year, maybe not. Off the break, who knows? And they're probably changing a few things, so maybe one I'm not super considering. You could also go Green on the flip side a little bit, but again, he's only recently just come back into form, so probably not having a huge amount of confidence on jumping on that. Adelaide have been typically a little bit tougher as well in terms of mid matchup. Next game, you could look at a Merritt or a Martin. Probably more Merritt than Martin, just given the role concerns. But again, there's tag worries, so does that worry you out of it? He's worried me out of it in terms of my top 5, so he's not in there. But he's gone. His scores actually against the Cats have been pretty poor. He's only gone 80 and 82 the last 2 games he's played them, so not a great record. So he definitely hasn't made my top 5. Oh, I also missed a player here. For the Suns, Flanders is also a really good option. He's obviously the second highest scoring player throughout the entire season and has been super consistent. The Pies are a really good matchup for defenders. If you look here, Collingwood designated kick-out players is plus 6-ish there. So I really like him as well. He makes my top 5. Finishing off on Sunday, not really touching anyone from this Port Adelaide Saints game. Not really looking at anyone. Oh, sorry. Marshall is the only one I'm looking at in this game. He's gone 73 and 159 against Port Adelaide recently, and 73 was earlier this season when he had that injury within that knee. Probably the only watch that we'll have is if Tom Campbell's still in, then he will absolutely not be number 1. He will not be in my top 5. So yeah, big watch there, but I still think he'll go massive if he is solo ruck. But you're not really looking at Rosie or Butters, just given there is a tag watch. Both aren't in great form. Port Adelaide aren't in great form either, so yeah, just one I'm not really considering there. You could possibly go with Taranto, but I haven't really given him too much thought, just especially if there's a tag coming his way. On the flip side, you got Walsh. I really like Walsh. I don't see a tag coming his way, so he's made my top 5 as well. And in the final game, you probably don't have anyone that's worth captaining. Like, you probably got a Day, who's probably the most relevant player from Hawthorn, and yeah, you really got no one from Eagles at all. So that probably does it for my captain options. Let's look at my top 5 real quick. So my top 5 options there is Rowan Marshall at number 1. This is assuming that he is going to be solo rucking without Tom Campbell against Sweet at Marvel Stadium under the roof, where they've been really struggling. I think we saw the likes of what's his name, McInerney go 125 against him last week. If I can pull that up, where are they? Yeah, they give up 18 extra points. Come on. Yeah, 125 last week. Kicked 3 goals. Had like 17 disposals, 35 hit-outs, something like that. So, yeah, we're seeing some definitely very good numbers against the Port Adelaide ruckman recently. So he should go absolutely ballistic here. So here's my number 1. Number 2, I've got Sam Flanders. He's been super consistent and has shown a decent ceiling and is in a good matchup here against Collingwood. So I don't mind him there. Hopefully you guys didn't see my cat just walk across my screen. Get up there. Come on. Get up. Yeah, Flanders is a really good option. I'm possibly looking to go into him this week. I'm not too concerned with him. I know there's some talk about him getting more CBA time, but I don't think that really helps his scoring, actually. Sam Flanders, Sam Walsh, sorry, is my number 3 against the Tigers. Don't see a tag coming. I'd be very surprised. He's been in very good form. He's a pretty safe 100 throughout the entire season. So, yeah, hasn't dropped too many low scores at all. So I don't mind him there. Probably just needs to show a bit more of a ceiling. So hopefully he can do that. Number 4, I've got Dane Zorko, just against who are they playing? They are playing Melbourne. Easy matchup for defenders at the Gabba. His record at the Gabba is pretty damn good, so I'd expect him to go pretty well here. And finally, I've thrown Nick Dacos in off the bye against the Suns. 150 last time they played. Probably no tag coming his way. So there's a bit of a theme to where my top 5 are at. It's just really looking at no tag risk. Good scoring potential, high current form as well. So yeah, that's probably the reason for mine top 5. So hopefully they all go well. I'm probably looking at going Zorko into either a Flanders or a Dacos. I'm thinking. I think I can't go wrong with Flanders, but if I'm looking for ceiling, I could go with Dacos. Yeah, so I'm sort of tossing up a little bit there. I don't have a Rowan Marshall, and I do have a Walsh, but again, yeah, there's so many different options this week. It's tough this time of year is trying to nail your captain. So there's been no obvious option, but I'll probably just follow the forward line, go Zorko into Flanders this time of year. But I'll see what everyone else's advice is and sort of make my decision off that, I'd say. That sort of does it for my captain options. To finish off the video, we'll quickly look at what my trades are. Like, it hasn't changed at all. Unless teams change a few things. I've just gone Harvey Thomas and Joel Frazier to Rosie and Whitfield here. So I think that should play out well. My team this week only have the one rookie and Tom Powell as, a looping option. So I'll probably put the emergency on Philstrup on the Friday night game, see how it goes. And then hopefully I do have a Garcia who should be a red dot to sort of make that that looping option if I need to. A little bit tough in the back line because both these guys play in the exact same game, so I can't really loop, and there's no guarantee that Pink is dropped, so I probably can't loop between them at all. But I can easily throw a Martin back there and just bench the lot of them, and then throw in an extra midfielder like a Dowling into the midfield and just field him instead. He's got GWS, so it is a tough matchup for wingers, I believe, if I have a look here. Yeah, GWS are really hard for wingers, which he's currently playing. So yeah, tough one. I do hope to loop a little bit. So yeah, going to look at a few different options. Probably not going to field McRae at all. I don't know if he's even going to play, so he could be a looping option as well. So that's where my team's at. It's not great, but we're just going to keep trucking along and keep trying to improve the side as where we can. Still having plenty of fun. But we'll move on to some questions from you guys from the last video. Let me just pull them up here. Starting at the bottom for the most yeah. So I got a question here from Hayes Reed 9. Rivers and Caldwell or Dunkley and McKercher. Both are great options. I do like both trades. Obviously, I don't know who you're trading at, but both are great options. I personally, both have risks. Obviously, Rivers has a risk of does his role continue, and same with Caldwell. Does he have a probably has a risk when Parrish comes back. So I'm probably leaning towards the side of going Dunkley and McKercher, even though McKercher obviously has a risk in his foot. I do think the scoring potential is probably higher in those two. It's just depending where you need your players. Obviously, one's a mid, one's a defender, and then you've got a forward and a defender there. So depends what's better for your lines, but I definitely probably prefer a Dunkley and McKercher there. Question here is from Power Prawn Stars. Okay, he's just saying he passed me last week. He scored a 2080 last week. Wow, and he scored the round rank of 193. Wow, congrats. That's a really good score there. So he's looking to bring in Will Power from Clark and Harrison to Wilmot. That's interesting. Risky moves, but completes my team, sort of. Yeah, I don't mind being a bit risky. You probably, if you're in the same sort of rankings as mine, you got to just risk it for the biscuit at this point in time of the year. Just have a bit of fun. Go with players that you like. So Will Power obviously scored really well on the weekend. Good matchup again this week. I didn't really look at him too heavily. What was his... I don't know. I won't bring it up now, but I expect he probably had some kick-ins there. Come on, cat. Out of the way. Out the way. Keep moving. Keep moving. I know the people want to see you, but... Go on. Yeah, so that's probably enough from him. He also said, I think Clark will go under 90 for the rest of this year. Freo looking good with him and Ryan not chipping it around. Interesting. Because from what I saw, I still think Clark is probably going to be a beneficiary of that movement because he's sort of that linking player from the halfback onwards. He's that sort of penetrating kick, so he actually probably benefits him a lot more, and I think his scoring is going to be pretty consistent and has a very good matchup. So I'm probably going to go against you then. I think he will continue to go over 100 and even have a few ceiling games in the weeks to come. Question here from Sean Page. Are you concerned at all with Pearce's injury impacting Ryan's score? Absolutely. Or will Cox cover him? So it's probably something we haven't talked about a huge amount is the Alex Pearce injury. Let's go to Fremantle. So he's been ruled out for 3 to 4 weeks. So obviously a huge concern for the likes of Ryan. It's just where is Alex Pearce? Not Alex Pearce. Brandon Cox. Brandon Cox will progress to Waffle League minutes this week as he returns from hamstring injury. So probably not too much of a concern for me. I do expect Cox to sort of come straight back in and sort of fill that main defender role from him. So I don't think too much changes. It's just that game style is the main concern. They're not chipping it back as much as they used to. We've seen the stat. They did it 27 times where they kicked backwards against Melbourne. And in the last 2 games, they've done like 6 and 7. So they're not looking to go backwards as much. So that's the main concern for him. But he probably does play a bit more of a key defender role this week. But he's still, I think he's the captain of the side, isn't he? I want to say he is. Or am I wrong? He could definitely be wrong. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I'm still I am concerned, but I don't think it's enough concern for me to jump off, given the good matchups, and I still think he can put up some decent ceiling scores. This is just what Luke Ryan does a little bit. Next question comes from Sean 1. Would you trade Ryan to get your last rookie off field? Absolutely. If I keep him, I have the cash to trade 2 rookies to get a primo this week. Oh, I don't have the cash to get 2 rookies. Yeah, okay. So you're not going to be able to complete your team if you don't trade him out. That's fair enough. Was thinking Ryan and McAuliffe to Rosie and McKercher. Good trades. Don't mind that. Would mean you're fielding either Ryan and Dowling on field if I keep Ryan, or you're fielding Rosie and McKercher. I'd probably just go with Rosie and McKercher there. Jump off the ship of Ryan. Finishes your team. Get 2 guys that are going to be generating cash and also providing some very decent scores. What do you think? Rosie probably goes about 100, if not 105, and McKercher's probably an 80 to 100-ish area, you'd think. That's probably a lot more than a Ryan that can put up anywhere from a 60 to a 120, and a Dowling that probably puts up about a 60, I'd say. So, yeah, probably pretty good trades there. I don't mind jumping off there. Yeah, we'll move on from that one. Another question here from user IC7. Problem players are Sexton and cashed up rookies Reveal, Fraser and Harrison. Current trades are Sexton and Harrison to Rosie and Evans with 250k in the bank and 1 rookie off field. Would you pay up for a different primo, Taranto, Caldwell, or stay safe with these trades? Yeah, I just don't think you overthink the Rosie thing. I think you just jump on board, bank the cash for next week, and get that main upgrade next week, because you need that. You probably need that 250k to get you up to that top line primo. So, like I said, target us a wrong, or jump on a Dunkley next week, or go unique and go to Taranto. I've spoken about him a fair bit, but yeah, I definitely just don't overthink the Rosie thing. Just jump on board and enjoy the cheap price he's at. I know as much as you want to jump on to that top line guy, it's just probably not worth it. He also followed up with another question. Who would you rank as the best rookie to field out of Reveal, Tholstrup, Freya, or Dowling, and in which order? Who does Reveal have? He has Melbourne at the Gabba. I'd probably go Reveal just for the consistency. Tholstrup for scoring potential. Oh, Freya has Melbourne, North Melbourne though. Very tough. Dowling's probably definitely my lowest one, just given the harder matchup and the role there. Yeah, tough one. I'd still probably go Reveal, Tholstrup, Freya, and Dowling, I think. I don't mind them there. Next question comes from Jim. Thoughts on Rosie and Evans from Powell and Garcia? Yep, I love those trades. Doesn't sound like huge upgrades in terms of looking at on paper, you've got Powell, who's sort of that mid-pricer, going up to a Rosie, so sort of like a mid-pricer going to a Primo, but it's still a decent upgrade. And you're going a Garcia, who's a red dot, to a green dot and Evans, so that's always a nice trade there as well. I've got not much of a question, I guess, from Johnny here, but he's saying, I think Rivers is a great option, regardless of tough matchup. Oliver and Viney will cop attention in a hard matchup, and if he can be a 90 guy and get himself up to 800k, it'll still be a smash pick for this time of year. I do think he's a good option. I'm not saying that Rivers isn't a great option. I'm just saying that it would have been nice if you had a few nice matchups to come that would have been like, okay, jump on board and just enjoy. Whereas it's a bit more thinking like, well, he's got some tough matchups. He's gonna probably not score as highly as the top sort of 8 guys that you want to look at. But I do still think he's a great option as a cheaper guy if you're hoping to make him to match those top guys. A couple more questions here. We've got one from String Bean. Morning, Darren. Looking purely at league matchup focus at the end of the year. So obviously, probably like me, not really looking at overall ranking anymore. Power to who? Caldwell with the Setterfield Parish return concern. Simpkin, volatile role, or Rankin, hard to trust the Crows. Ignoring current price value, thanks. Alright, so you're pretty much asking me, would you go Caldwell or Simpkin or Rankin? So I probably wouldn't go Rankin. Not really trusting him at all, just with what Crows are going to do. Changing a few things up in their midfield, so does that include him? He was already a part of that, so maybe not. Simpkin, it's pretty much gone Simpkin or Caldwell, I think, and again, both have very different concerns with the likes of Caldwell. Trade is about to start. Love that. We'll get on board of that in a minute. Caldwell, again, 3 weeks until Parish is back. Setterfield's already back, but he's not really inside. So I think you just go Caldwell. I think he's a bit more pricey, so maybe make your decision with who you want to go. You've got probably 150k difference between these two, so it's a bit of a price jump. But I think Caldwell's probably the safer play in terms of his role there. It should be pretty consistent for the next 3 weeks. Or you go Simpkin, who is the captain of the side, probably going to be pretty consistent with having about 40% CBAs and can pop up for an 80 here and there. So maybe just go the cheaper option and complete your side, I think. Maybe I'm probably chopping and changing a little bit there, but I think Simpkin is probably the safer play, weirdly enough. Finally, the last question I got from Kate here. It's Rosie and Evans for me this week. One rookie left on field. I'm not sure what structure to go for. I can flick Fisher back or forward. Would you rather loop Dowling and Freya at F6, but meaning Evans defender clogs up the utility spot? That's not too much of a worry. Or you have Ari and Evans as the last on-field rookie at D6, leaves Dowling as a utility. Ranked about 5k. Thanks for your help over the bias. No worries. So given that Evans and Ari play the same game and you probably can't loop between them, I'd probably just loop between a Dowling and a Freya. You get 2 options at it, so I'd say that's probably the better option there, rather than just sort of backing in one of the Evans or Ari. And if you want to go that way, then I'd probably back in an Ari over an Evans there. It's tough as it is, and it's the matchup. I just think Ari has a higher scoring potential than an Evans, so yeah, that's probably where I'm at. But good trades. I think you're in a pretty decent position at 5k, having a pretty good year. So, but that will sort of do it, I think, for today, guys. I don't think I have anything else to say. I think that should be pretty good for the remainder of the week. And yeah, hopefully you guys smash it out. Back to normal this week with 22 on field, so keep that in mind. Hope you smash your captains, and yeah, please leave a like, subscribe, tell a mate. Still on the road to we've got over 700 subscribers now, so on to the road to 800. So hopefully you guys can help me get there, and hopefully we can push towards 800 before the end of the season. And I'll leave you guys to it. Have a great week, and I'll catch you guys next week. Bye.